Starting high school was tough since I was a new transfer student and I did not know anyone in my new school. For the first couple of weeks, I did not have anyone to hang out with, but slowly I got to know some people that have the same interests as me, particularly this one guy. This guy and I would talk endlessly about our common interests, and since we just met, we had a lot of things to talk about. My first impression of him was that he was a pretty chill dude, but as the more time I spent hanging out with him, the more aware I became of his problematic traits. I wanted to reject this side of him, but it was hard since it is very much in full display. This experience basically sums up how I feel about a show called Invincible and its second season. Now, before I dive into Invincible, I want to preface that I am purely watching the show and I do not read the comics at all. So, Invincible is a show about an up and coming superhero named Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, who is the son of Nolan and Debbie Grayson. Nolan originally did not come from Earth but was a well known superhero on it known as Omni Man, until it was revealed that he's actually trying to conquer Earth for his empire called the Viltrumite. Nolan fails to conquer Earth because while fighting Mark, he realizes that he actually cares about his son and flies off to space. The story mainly revolves around Mark and the struggles and responsibilities he has to face in his life. The latest season right now is exploring the internal conflicts that Mark is having after all that has happened in season 1. The plot of the second season may sound interesting on paper, but the way they execute it is far from that. The season starts off strong with the aftermath of Mark's fight with Nolan and seeing how everyone, especially Mark, is dealing with Nolan's betrayal. You can see at the start the show wants to focus mainly on Mark. The show starts losing me when it tries to direct the viewer's attention to a multitude of different things throughout multiple episodes, like the Guardian of the Globes, Donald being a robot, Angstrom and the existence of different multiverses, and I do not know what they were thinking of with showing a lot, and I mean a lot, of how Mark's college life is. I cannot emphasize how important it is to limit the viewer's attention to only certain things in the show, and Invincible just threw all of this away. You would think that limiting what you are showing might make the show less interesting, but it does the opposite. It makes both the characters, especially the protagonist and antagonist, and plot more fleshed out, and thus making the viewer more engaged with the show and what it has to offer right now and in the future. The second season feels like it really crammed a lot of stuff. Some warranted, like seeing how Debbie copes with Noah's betrayal, but others honestly should not have been there, like Mark's college life. They tried to explore so many plots in the second season that along the way, it just ended up overcomplicating stuff. And for what? After finishing season 2, the only thing I'm interested in at the end is still mainly on Mark and the whole Viltrumite plotline. All these other plotlines feel like they were just there to increase the runtime on the show. They do not feel significant enough to waste that much time on, nor do they seem as interesting as the main plot. The second season also has a major antagonist problem. We went from one of the most well written and compelling antagonists in fiction with Nolan Grayson, aka Omni Man, to Angstrom? Seriously? A guy with the memories of all the different versions of him, and thus his goals and motivations are made to be pretty ambiguous? Not to mention that he does not even appear in most of the show, and he's supposed to be the major villain? It's such a huge step down from season 1, where every time Nolan is on screen, the tension on the air is thick, and the show is able to humanize him even after all the things he's done. They honestly should have just made the story of the second season only revolve around Mark and Libby, as they overcome the aftermath of season 1 while building up the Viltrumite plotline. Hell, just show more of the brutality of Viltrumites and they can act as the antagonists. No need to add Angstrom to the mix. All this other stuff just feels unnecessary. Now you may be wondering why I was telling that story of how I met my friend at the beginning of this video. Yes, we are still friends, and that's because even if I see all these negative aspects of him on display, that does not paint the full picture of him as a person. There are positives that I did not mention, and I am willing to believe that he can change for the better. Invincible is similar in that sense. Even though the second season has all these problems with their antagonists and not having a linear focus, I am still going to give the third season a shot since there are positives that I saw, especially with how interesting Mark is developing as a character and how exciting the story with the Viltrumites is. So now that only leaves us with how they are going to execute the next season. Will it be like the first or the second season? The only thing we can do is wait and see.